Against economic hardship and governance issues, the clergy called for peaceful protest and urged the police to exercise restraint and respect human rights during the upcoming anniversary events. They also demanded that investigations to be reopened and justice to be served to the victims of the 2024 protests.
Now, to be able to call out the evils in society, we have to observe and acknowledge what is happening. Allow me to share a few things we can observe in Kenya, lest we forget. Last year, the Gen Z protests between June and August 2024 took place. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights recorded 63 deaths, 610 injured, 1,376 arbitrary arrests, and 74 enforced disappearances, 26 of which remain unresolved. We're here to call out. We are here to acknowledge that these things have happened, lest we forget. And in the midst of this, in the aftermath of this week alone, we are reeling from the shooting of a vendor who was simply trying to earn a living. The tragedy was this tragedy took place in the context of protests meant to demand justice for Albert Ojwang, a teacher and a blogger who we all know died in police custody. We are here to acknowledge. We are here to remember. And lest we forget, the context of last year's protests was that the Finance Bill 2024 was meant to reduce external borrowing by increasing taxes. But Kenyans of all walks of life expressed their outrage because those taxes were going to be increased, yet there is no accountability for corruption. There is no accountability for wastage by our leadership. Let me say this to our elected representatives who may be seated here or listening online. Let me say this also to those who are in the uniformed services, because we are not on opposing sides. Your own children are not exempt from the crisis in this country. The people of God have gathered here overwhelmed with emotion, with a lot of sadness, and thinking about their future, their family, and people have no certainty. To you, the young people of this nation gathered here today and online, to the families, the Church of Jesus Christ has gathered in this service to say, we see your pain. We hear your anger. We hear and feel your frustration. And it is real and it is valid. That is the reason for this gathering of today.
Right at the same time, church leaders from various denominations across Kenya convened on Saturday morning to hold a solemn interdenominational prayer service calling for peace ahead of the planned national demonstrations set for June 25th. The event brought together clergy, youth representatives and families who lost loved ones during the last year's protest, creating a reflective atmosphere focused on healing and justice. The service was held to commemorate the 1-year anniversary of the Gen Z protest that took place last June. During the service, speakers urged Kenyans, especially the youth, to embrace peaceful and non-violent means of expression during the upcoming demonstrations. The clergy emphasized the need to avoid violence and hooliganism, encouraging unity and national cohesion.
Ya kwamba tarehe 25 watoto wetu wanapotoka nje kulingana constitution wana haki yao na sisi hatuingilili, ila tunaomba watoto wetu wanapotoka nje wasiharibu mali ya watu, wasiharibu biashara za watu. Wakianza kutembea, watembee na amani, wasichokosa askari, na askari waangalie watoto wetu.
Right at the same time, the Catholic Church in Kenya has called for reconciliation and dialogue between the government and the country's youth to prevent further division and unrest. Speaking on behalf of the church, Archbishop Anthony Macharia of Nyeri and Archbishop Philip Anyolo of Nairobi Archdiocese emphasized the importance of mutual understanding and peaceful engagement, especially in light of the recent tensions ahead of the June 25th demonstrations. The bishops also called on the government to compensate victims who have suffered harm or losses due to past protests, noting that many families continue to bear the brunt of economic hardship and trauma resulting from violent crackdowns. Archbishop Anyolo stressed that national healing and unity must be prioritized. The statement by the Catholic Church comes at a critical time as Kenya prepares for the one-year anniversary of the June 25th Gen Z protest, with fresh demonstrations expected. The church message reinforces the growing calls for non-violence, accountability, and inclusive governance.
It doesn't matter what you hold to be your goals. The most prior goal is human life, protection of human life. The most prior goal is to uplift the real needy, the poor and miserable. And above all, to accommodate, to listen to one another, to embrace one another.
Let us not be so reckless in our speeches. Politically, anywhere where you are, don't be so reckless in your speeches. We have a way to talk about it. Even in fact, it's as reflected in our national anthem, a way to talk to one another and to encourage one another to live as a nation. With these reckless speeches that we have, what in terms of politics, they bring us nowhere, but they bring us down as a country.
Right, Anglican bishops from the Nyanza region have called for the disbursement of Kenya Director of Criminal Investigation, that is the DCI, accusing the agency of being misused by those in power and failing to, in its mandate to uphold justice. Speaking in Kisumu, the clerics strongly condemned the country's security agencies, accusing them of negligence and complicity in extrajudicial killings. The bishops cited raising cases of unlawful killings and a lack of accountability by security institutions as evidence of the broken system that no longer serves the interest of justice or public safety. The clergy urged the government to take action to reform the country's security apparatus and to ensure justice for victims of police brutality and extrajudicial violence.
It has come that a body like the DCI should be phased out. It has become a dreaded unit used by those in power to harass Kenyans. IPOA has failed Kenyans, and it is seen as a toothless dog that can't bite, but can talk louder enough to confuse the nation that it is working. Let all machineries of the state that are funded by the taxpayers be allowed to do their work without interference.
Our police, please come to terms with the fact that many Kenyans are cursing you every day because of your heartless and callous manner of dealing with the members of the public. And in this kind of behavior that has led into radicalization of our youth as they strive to resist this totalitarianism and its very many manifestations.
Right, moving on to matters politics now. In Democracy for Citizens Party leader, that is Rigathi Gachagua, has launched a scathing attack on President William Ruto, accusing him of organizing political chaos and undermining democratic values during Gachagua's recent tour of Meru County. Speaking at AIPCA St. Mary's Church in Buri constituency on Sunday, the former deputy president claimed that President William Ruto, in collaboration with the local members of parliament, mobilized the youth to disrupt his 3-day visit to the region. Gachagua labeled President William Ruto as a dictator and desperate, asserting that the president has exhibited a level of authoritarianism unprecedented in the country's recent history. He also hit out at Meru MPs for allegedly organizing goons to incite mayhem, while thanking the residents of Meru for standing by him during the tense visit. According to the DCP leader, the government's accusations that the opposition lacks a development agenda are baseless, and the current administration is desperate after its own plans failed.
William Ruto has sunk our country so low that he is using goons to run the country. Wakati ya Gen Z alitumia huyu Sakaja na PS Raymond Omolo kutafuta wahuni, wakakuja wakakoroga Gen Z na kuingia parliament. Wakajaribu kuwekelea ati ni sisi. Juzi tumeona huyu governor amechukua wakora, wamepiga watu, wamepora mali ya watu. Huyu governor hajashikwa mpaka wa leo. Na nimesikia watu ya Kenya Kwanza wakisema ati wale wanapanga kuharibu 25th washikwe. Wale wanapanga bado fanya. Yule amefanya makosa bado. The governor is still walking scot free. Hapa Meru umetuma wahuni. Wewe mwenyewe rais kulikuwa unatembea Nairobi, unatembea na goons. Na ndio tunasema hii Haiti ulituma ati askari kupigana na goons. Wewe mwenyewe nchi yako umeweka goons ndio wanaumiza watu. Ndio tumeanza kuona hii Haiti haikuwa genuine, ilikuwa ni benchmarking on how to create criminal gangs. So sisi tuko na shida. Mheshimiwa, hao watu wa Buri walikuchagua. Mimi mwenyewe, my mother is from Kibirisha. Hata kama ni madharau, hata kama William Ruto anakutumia vibaya, how do you plan violence against your own brother? I know hamuna shida dancing on the graves of your brothers, but at least you have sunk too low, stopping us to come to the Church of Christ. Wewe mheshimiwa, utachaguliwa na nani? Na mimi niwaambie nyinyi waheshimiwa, before I finish, I warned you. Mimi nilione nyinyi, nikamwambia William Ruto atawacha nyinyi kwa mataa. Sasa mlima imemwacha na imewacha nyinyi. Yeye ameenda kwa Wajaluo, anaenda kwingine. Nyinyi mtaenda wapi? You are sunk. Nyinyi ni watu ya hapa. Jana amepigia soprano kelele, amesema atajipanga nje. Yeye he has an option ya kujipanga nje. Nyinyi watu walitumia hapa kupigana na watu wenu, kukosea watu wenu heshima, mtaenda wapi?
Right at the same time, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has launched another fierce attack on President William Ruto, accusing him of dishonesty and failing to deliver on key development promises. Speaking during a church service at AIPCA St. Mary's Church in Buri constituency, Meru County, on Sunday, Gachagua described President William Ruto as a pathological liar, alleging that the majority of the projects he pledged during his campaign have not been fulfilled. While distancing himself from opposing the president's personal investments, Gachagua raised concerns that the only notable project currently underway in Meru County is the construction of a hotel reportedly linked to President William Ruto.
Wabunge wetu wametumika vibaya sana na William Ruto. Ameita Muthoni, amemwambia wewe ambia hii wa Meru ya kwamba animal feeds nimepunguza bei, nimeteremsha. Na huyu Muthoni ni mkulima na anajua haijateremuka. Lakini kwa sababu wabunge wetu wamebewa akili na William Ruto, whatever anaambia wafanye ndio wanafanya. Akaambia Muthoni kwenda sema nimeteremsha bei ya animal feeds. Alipigiwa kelele na Wameru. She was very embarrassed. Sasa niseme William Ruto, tafadhali, mimi sina shida na wewe kuinvest Meru. No. But I have a problem ya kwamba the only project imefanyika Meru ni ile hoteli umenunua na unajenga barabara na pesa ya umma. That's my problem. I have no other problem. You can invest if you want, lakini si utufanyie kazi. Si utumie pesa ya umma kusaidia watu ya Meru. Sasa unasema utapeana sete Meru. Nimekuwa na wazee ya Imenti jana usiku wamesema fast kama atapeana sete ni sawa. Lakini tunaweza amini mtu amesema leo pale makutano, tukimwangalia ati yeye ni Mumeru na tunamwangalia na macho. Sasa wazee wanasema hii mtu uongo wake umefika kiwango ati naambia Wameru yeye ni mume. William Ruto has now become a pathological liar that he believes in his own lies. Ati anasimama pale makutano, ameangalia Wameru namna hii kwa macho, na hawezi ona aibu, na ni Wameru wanaambia ati yeye ni Mumeru. Sasa wazee wananiuliza kama anatudanganya ni Mumeru na tunajua si Mumeru. Hii anasema ya city, hii anasema ya barabara, hii anasema ya SHA, kuna mtu anaweza amini? Hao wazee wakaniambia, in fact we have a doubt kama kabisa huyu William Ruto hiyo ndio jina yake kamili. It's not, you cannot now confirm whether he is the same person. So wewe rais, maneno ya uongo, you cannot run away with it and nobody can believe you. Because if you can come to Meru and say you are Meru, my friend, hata kwani unatubeba ufala namna gani? Surely. Na una haya. Na nikaona mtu ya Zabrano anafanya kichwa namna hii. Si mliona akifanya kichwa? William Ruto akisema ni Mumeru, Zabrano anasema
Right, moving on, former Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture and Livestock Development, Mithika Linturi, has strongly criticized President William Ruto, branding him as a traitor and accusing him of abandoning the promises he made to Kenyans during his campaign. Speaking on Sunday during a church service at AIPCS St. Mary's Church in Bururi constituency, Meru County, Linturi said the president had betrayed the trust of those who stood by him during his rise to power, particularly the people of Meru County. Linturi, who was dismissed from cabinet earlier this year, warned that President William Ruto should not expect political support from Meru in the next general election. He stated that the over 400,000 votes the president garnered from the county in 2022 elections would no longer be guaranteed.
Unajua William Ruto alifikiria sababu sisi tulimzungusha huku na tukamwamini ya kwamba sisi ni wajinga sana. Lakini we meant well, sisi ni watu tukiamini hakuna kitu hatuwezi kukupatia. And the problem William Ruto wewe umefanya ni kusaliti sisi. You have betrayed us. You have caused us a lot of pain because whatever you told us that you do for the Meru people and the Ngema people, you have not done. We went round tukaandika mikataba zilikuwa zinaitwa economic forums zile tulikuwa nayo. Economic charter tuliandika. So when tuliandikiana, your business ni kuita wabunge kuwapatia 100 na State House na Karen kwa yule mtu kwa Nkuru, eta Nkuru yao ndio meta Nkuru. Kuambia watu waandika report tutafanya nini? Wewe unatukosea ndapo because we are and that was the basis of why we elected you. Now I want to announce and tell you the 400,000 votes that we gave you in Meru. Sababu we are number 4 in this country. Kukupatia, my good friend. Usahau na utajua ya kwamba our vote is going to a basket that will make you a one-term president. Ama namna gani?
Right, it is exactly 17 minutes past the top of the hour. That's why to take a short commercial break here on Christian World Today. We'll be back in just a bit. Politics and refrain from using insults. Wetangula emphasized the importance of national cohesion and encouraged leaders to tone down their rhetoric. The speaker also appealed to the church to continue praying for the country as it navigates growing political friction. In addition, Speaker Wetangula reiterated his commitment to elevation of Bungoma town to a city status.
Nchi yetu imekuwa na changamoto na Father amesema tuombee amani. Kwa sababu amani haina alternative in life. Tuombea amani, nchi yetu iwe na amani, tuheshimiane. Hata wale viongozi wenye wanaingia upinzani tunawaambia wapunguze lugha chafu na lugha ya matusi. We can disagree but with respect. We can compete but with respect. The fact that I'm competing with you does not make you a bad person. We can all be good people trying to do the same thing differently. Na hiyo ndio tunaomba viongozi wa kisiasa. Hao watu tunaguza wanaangalia vile tuna behave kama viongozi. Kama sisi tunatusianana hadharani maneno chafu, maneno ambayo haistahili kutamkwa na mtu mzima, we are teaching our children bad manners. And we must change. So tuombee viongozi. Tuombee viongozi hata wale wanataka kuwa viongozi wa nchi. Leta sera zenu. Usiwe tu ukisimama unauliza wewe unataka kufanyia nini Kenya Kasongo? Wewe unataka kufanyia nini Kenya one term? Wewe unataka kufanyia nini Kenya Ruto must go? That is not a policy. The policy is what you want to do differently from whoever is there is doing. Ndio watu waseme kama wewe alifanya hii vizuri, huyu ataweza kufanya vizuri zaidi.
Right, moving on to across our borders, U.S. President Donald Trump has declared that American forces have obliterated Iran's key nuclear facilities in overnight airstrikes, marking a dangerous escalation in an already volatile Middle East conflict. The strikes came in the wake of intensified hostilities triggered by Israel's initial assault on Iran's nuclear and military sites on June the 13th. Speaking at a press conference, President Donald Trump described the operation as a spectacular military success, asserting that its primary goal was to destroy Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and eliminate what he called a growing nuclear threat. In response to the American offensive, Iran missile fire overnight appeared heavier than in previous days, with multiple impacts reported in Israeli their territory. Now, Iran's health ministry confirmed that at least 86 people were injured in the latest wave of retaliatory attacks. Tehran has vowed to defend itself by reserving all options as tensions continue to mount.
Nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Right, now tonight on our testimony segment, a powerful story of searching, struggle and salvation. For one woman, the New Age movement promised light, peace and healing, but instead it led her deeper into confusion and spiritual darkness. Just when she thought all hope was lost, she encountered the Messiah. Let's listen in for a moving testimony of transformation and truth, a journey from deception to divine deliverance.
I'm Shiri Joshua. I grew up in Israel. We grew up secular. My dad maybe went to synagogue on Yom Kippur, and that's about it, kind of thing. My family moved to Canada. It was in the mid-90s. I was listening to Christmas songs one day in the car, being very new to Canada. And I'm listening to those words saying, King of the Jews, Messiah of Israel, you know, stuff like born in Bethlehem. And I'm like, this is Jewish stuff. Oh my gosh, like, who is this Jesus? Am I okay to research about him? And then I enrolled in university, studied psychology. But what happened is, because I'm such an animal lover, I had a bunny rabbit. And he was very sick. So it was time for him to be euthanized. I remember like literally falling in pieces. And I couldn't understand my reaction. I wish I believed in God or something. It was like this yearning to have some sort of a comfort beyond what I know in my intellect. And then I got into New Age. It started with learning things like Reiki, which is like an energy healing. And I took the first course and I felt, my goodness, this is it. I found my calling. So I've taken it up to the very final level, which means I could also teach Reiki. And my niche or my specialty was animal Reiki. So I had the psychology background where I would offer pet loss grief. I've completed a master's degree in child and adolescent psychology and also practiced as a trauma psychotherapist. While I was yearning the supernatural, I had a very rational brain that I needed to understand what's happening. You name it, I did it. Crystals, talking to consciousness. I felt I'm getting deeper and deeper in my connection with God. But all along, two things remained. I was quite depressed and anxious, and I was also very poor. Through the New Age, I saw a book. The name of the book is A Course in Miracles. It takes scriptures and twists them as if you're communicating with the consciousness of the universe. But I opened the book, and the book said the word Christ. Now, my first reaction was to toss this book across the wall. I'm Jewish. I'm not supposed to read about Christ. And then I kind of reflected on, hey, why did I just do that? Like, who told me I can't read about Christ? So I picked up that book and started reading it. It kept talking about this world is an illusion. It says things like the opposite of fear is love. While I'm reading this book, I see this figure with a face that is so pure love and eyes that were fire. And he was wearing a talit, like a prayer shawl, a Jewish prayer shawl. That's what I saw. And then that figure opened his arms like this and he said, "Come to me." And I knew that this is Yeshua. So then my intellectual brain said, oh, I know what he meant. He meant go to Israel, because he's from Israel. So I came to Israel, and I kind of said, okay, I'm here. Like, you said, come to me, I'm here. And nothing happened, right? I didn't hear anything, didn't see anything. The sky didn't open up, nothing. And I was like, okay, now what? So I actually grabbed all my stuff and schlepped back to Vancouver and started from scratch. I got myself a job in my field that I studied, and I'm sitting in my new office, very proud of myself, going, God, I don't need you. I don't know what you meant by come to me. You know what? That's enough. I spent 2 years trying to understand what that vision was, and I've never heard from you since then, so leave me alone. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from my doctor to say, hey, you need to come and see me. Got into her office, and she's mute. She's not telling me anything. She's just sitting there. I looked at her computer monitor, and I see carcinoma, and the blood just washes off my face because what happened to the universe protecting me. But in that very instant when I was told you're dying, it really didn't matter to me anymore. So I fell on my knees and I said, okay, Jesus, if I die, I die, but I want to come to you. But if you let me live, this life will be yours and I will tell everyone about you. 2 surgeries, chemotherapy, radiation, biological treatment, you name it, it happened. It was the hardest thing of my life. My mom took care of me like a nurse, and it really humbled me. At this point, my heart is soft. I've accepted that Yeshua, Jesus, is my Lord and Savior, and I felt that I really don't care if I die, because I know I'm going to Him. I didn't want to die because I wanted to live and be here with my family, but the fear of death was gone. So the chemotherapy and the treatment were very, very, very harsh, made me very, very sick. And out of my mouth came this prayer, and I said, God, I think I might be the only Jewish person on the planet who believes in Jesus. But if you know of another one person, would you please connect me with that person? 24 hours later, I went for a walk, not too far from where my parents live. And I come across a sign that says Gate of Zion, City of David Messianic Synagogue, and a flag of Israel. The person who answered the phone, her name is Ronit, and it's a Hebrew name, it's an Israeli name. So that immediately put me at ease. Can we meet? And she said, sure, come. And the first thing I see is a sign that says Yeshua in Hebrew. And I said, wow, it says Yeshua. But again, God is so good at details that even that He knew would capture my sight and put me at ease. They taught me everything I need to know about the scriptures. I realized how Jewish it all is. And I felt so safe that this is not only okay to believe in Yeshua, but like, who wouldn't? They lied to us. Nobody taught me that the New Testament, Brit HaChadashah, is actually the continuation of the Tanakh. I renounced New Age, like that Course in Miracles that I talked about, Reiki, crystals, talking to dead people and dead animals that I thought were very spiritual, actually opened the door to darkness. I realized that not only when I said, God, I don't need you and get away from me, I removed myself from His protection, and then I had this deliverance session. So she's speaking scripture on me and commanding the spirit of cancer to come out of me. And I kid you not, I saw it, and it fled. Like, I saw it. And the person who did the deliverance said, I saw it too. So the shed blood of Yeshua healed me and cleansed me.
Right now, from the false promise of New Age healing to the light, redeeming light of the Messiah, our story is a powerful reminder that not all that glitters leads to the truth. what seemed like healing only led to her deeper into darkness until she encountered the true source of hope. As she said so profoundly that I thought new life would bring healing, but I was trapped in darkness. Then I met the Messiah. Her testimony inspired many still searching for light in the shadow. Right, it is exactly 34 minutes past the top of the hour. That note, we wrap up our program here on Christian World today. My name is Martin Macharia, signing off. Do yourself a blessed night, and just in case you will join the 25th June protest, just take there when you are out there. Many thanks, of course, keeping us company here on the program, and let's meet again when God says we do.